Awesome. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome. We're thrilled to have you all with us for tonight's webinar, Preparing for the Future, Integrating Faith, Work, and Study. We're joined by a wonderful guest from the College of St. Joseph the Worker, located in Steubenville, Ohio. At the College of St. Joseph the Worker, you won't just hit the books. You'll learn to think deeply, pray with purpose, and build something real. They are all about blending faith, learning, and hands-on skills so you can make a real impact in your community. As we always begin our events at Kolbe, let's start with a prayer. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. All glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen. Saint Joseph, pray for us, and Saint Maximilian Kolbe, pray for us. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Now it's my pleasure to introduce you to Mr. Michael Gugala from the College of St. Joseph. Michael.
Hey, Josh, thanks so much. It's great to be here with you this evening. Really looking forward to walking through my presentation and also taking any questions, so we can make sure everybody feels very comfortable with our program and what they're hearing, and allows them to make good decisions.
Awesome. It's great to have you here. Now let's dive into our topic today. Again, it's preparing for the future, integrating faith, work, and study. And as a reminder, all of our attendees today are in listen-only mode. So we encourage you to utilize the QA module on the bottom of your screen of the webinar to ask questions as they come up. And we'll be available to answer these during and at the end of our session tonight as the time permits. And with that, I'd love to pass the torch on to Michael to share more about the details of the College of St. Joseph the Worker.
Great. Thanks, Josh. I'm going to share my screen here for a presentation that I have. It's doesn't take too long. It's fairly brief, but gives a lot of good information, I hope. So, great. All right. We seeing that now?
Looks great.
Okay, thanks. So, College of St. Joseph the Worker. We're a new entity here in higher education, and so I like to talk briefly just about it as a new model for higher education. So, what you'll find when we discuss it is how we combine multiple elements of other higher education forms. A lot of students today, as they kind of survey the landscape, and parents as you're trying to guide and direct their children towards their next step in life. Typically, you talk about a 4-year college or university as a potential path to get a degree. Then you might have trade school as an option on your mind if you have someone that's a little more adept with working with their hands. And so what we've done essentially is taken those two concepts and put them together into the same program. So I like to say that we combined the truth, beauty, and goodness of a liberal arts education through the lens of theology, combined with the practicality of training in a skilled trade. And so this all happens in the same program. And so what's our mission here at the college? So, here's the words of it. The College of St. Joseph the Worker forms students into effective and committed members of their communities by teaching them the Catholic intellectual tradition while training them in skilled and dignified labor. We teach our students to think, but also to pray, to love, and to build. And there's a lot involved in all those words. It's a lot to consider, a lot to think about. I'll call out maybe a few of the words and talk through the mission just a little bit further. Effective. That's a word that we would use because of the intellectual side that they get in the classroom here. Committed. This is what we're all about. We want them to have a solid foundation for which they can then move forward with plans for their lives that they're very committed to. Right. We don't really necessarily see that many of our students will probably come in questioning what their vocation will be. The college is fitted to educate the laity. That's what our mission is here, and to form the laity. So into committed members of their communities. We like to bring in community. It's super important to us, very critical as we look across this country. So while they're here with us in Steubenville, we want them to be committed to the community here. But then when they go back to their home state, home cities, we want them to be committed to that community as well. The Catholic intellectual tradition, so important in that, liberal arts, we don't want it to, just be thought of as a liberal arts education in terms of, making you a great thinker, etc. It's also making sure that as you're thinking on these great things, meditating on higher truths, it's always directed to your Catholic faith. It's always directed through your spiritual lens, and that's how we want our students to view their entire lives. And then lastly, training them in skilled and dignified labor. There's something beautiful about working with your hands when that's your aptitude. There's something very special about thinking about Saint Joseph in that way as well, our patron here, and such a great model for us. And then we teach our students to think, but also to pray, to love, and to build. There's a lot. There's a lot to go on there, but essentially, they're through time spent in prayer together, through time spent going to mass and the sacraments together, spending lives in community, supporting one another as we go out and face the world. We think that's incredibly important. And then to build, right? Not just in the physical sense of we're going to teach them how to build houses, but we're also going to teach them how to build families, how to build workplace culture, how to build community, all things that are crucial in today's world. So the guy you can sort of see in the background there, Mike Sullivan, that's our president, teaching some of the folks in the workshop, and the way he talks about this, and as well as our founder, Dr. Jacob Imam, who you saw on that last slide briefly, kind of talk about the concept of the college as it relates back to the medieval monasteries, where we had the chapel and the fields or the workshop and the library really being interconnected in this harmonious spiritual formation and personal development of the students. And we also then like to talk about the early university system created and championed by the Catholic Church, and with its original purpose of spreading the gospel better, right? Training priests to be better stewards of the gospel and to help them take it to their flocks more effectively, more intelligently, in a more powerful way, so that the laity could then go out and live it more intentionally. And we take that as well, but of course, our focus being on the laity. So we want to educate the laity to their role in the world. So a bit different than the medieval monasteries, but nonetheless, we both have our parts to play. And so then getting into a little bit more of the education and training itself. So this is a Bachelor of Arts degree that our students earn, and it's in Catholic Studies. And so you might say, well, what is Catholic Studies? That sounds, sort of broad and not quite so specific. So, what Catholic Studies, again, like I was mentioning earlier, think of it as a liberal arts and humanities curriculum, but perfected through the lens of theology, right? Always bringing it back to the divine. And we want to form our students in the lay vocation. And the three areas we talk about the lay vocation are, sanctifying our families, our workplaces, and our communities, or our economy and our politics, as it were. And then, really, the end, with the end in mind, it's learning how to think and develop a Catholic worldview. If we want to, for all intents and purposes, practically speaking, we want our graduates to come out as very confident, capable people who, while they may not be completely satisfied with what is going on in the world, they know how to deal with it. They know how to engage with it. They know how to, bring people to Christ. They know how to, try to transform our culture for Christ. And that's really what the degree is about. I think in today's culture, we maybe think of degrees only in terms of jobs. You go to X college to get X degree because it gets you X job. Um, and in this case, this type of degree that we're giving is really more about the personal formation, the spiritual formation of the individual. It's arming them with those tools they will need to go out and be most effective in their family, workplace, and community. And so on the flip side of that, then you say, well, what do you do about a job, right? You got the degree and you're a very well-formed person, but we don't want you to have to be a well-formed person who has to move back with mom and dad and can't afford to get out from all the college debt they have, and they're not finding the job they want. So we introduced the building trades into the picture here, the practicality of learning a skilled trade. So why do we focus on these? So one, they are always in demand. A job. You will have a job, and this is huge right now. The trades are so underserved in our country right now. Um, there's been a pretty large disservice done to the trades, I think, and people's view of them has become quite skewed. Some of that has been earned, but a lot of it is undeserved as well. And we are very much interested in bringing competent moral craftsmen into the trades and allowing them to make a very good living in those trades while they do beautiful work and really help people and communities. And so that's one reason for the building trades. Another that we like to talk about is that the building trades allow us to teach what we call the anatomy of a house, anatomy of a home, and that's a little bit of a principle where we want to teach that there is an order to things. There is a way that construction is done, and not only does that make you better at your job when you understand the bigger picture, well, we think it also makes you a healthier human when you can see that there is an order to things and there is a way that things are supposed to be done. And we live in a society now that a lot of things happen and we don't understand how they happened or what these large systems are all about and how things function, right? We tap a few buttons here, tap a few buttons there, and things show up at our house, things happen in our world, but there's little concept of what actually is going on behind the scenes. And that perhaps has led to our culture being a little bit of an anxious culture these days, and we like the peace of mind that our future tradesmen can employ and develop because they get what we call that step back effect when they get to look at a job well done at the end of the day. And frankly, even if it was a tough day, they can still point at something physical, something tangible in front of them. And they can say, I did this today, right? Not everybody can do that. Not everybody can point to something they did today. And for especially for homeschool families, we are homeschool family ourselves. My wife and I, we've been homeschooling our children for 16 years now, and I think you can appreciate what this is because at the end of the day, you can point to your own children and say, "This is what we did today. This is what we worked on today," and that makes for a pretty great feeling. So that was a little bit of the high level. Now I'm just going to go into the a little bit of the nuts and bolts of the program itself. So the program here. So year one in Steubenville, Ohio. Here you begin your Catholic studies and your shop courses and you get a broad training across all the building trades. So right year one, you're getting acclimated to being here. You're figuring out, what's the mass schedule and how does that coordinate with class schedule and when are the sacraments served and when can I get to confession and when are my classes and when do I have to be in shop, right? It's a lot to acclimate to, and it's a busy program. But as you're getting acclimated, you are also getting acclimated to the trades. So you get a broad cross section of all the building trades in year one, and that's so that our students don't have to be decided when they come in. We like that there's flexibility there. We think that takes things one step for the better from trade school. Trade school, that's for those who maybe they already know. I'm going to be a plumber, and I'm just going into that. And but there's a lot who don't know, right? They know they like to work with their hands. They're interested in a trade. Maybe they've have a family member they've shadowed a little bit, or some minor experience, with one of the trades, but they're not quite sure. And so year one, as they do this tiny home build that we do, and learn some of the other lessons they'll learn, they'll get a better feel for which trade is the one that's speaking to them. And so well, we like the flexibility of that in year one. Then for the next several years, as they're working through their time here in Steubenville, they'll continue their classroom instruction, Starting before year 2, they have to choose their trade concentration. So you get that 1 year of being able to decide, and then in year 2 you have to be decided. So the trades we teach are residential construction. So you can choose from carpentry, plumbing, electrical, or HVAC. And then the other interesting thing that starts in year 2 is that you begin paid work on actual job sites. So you're about half the time in the classroom and you're about half the time on job site, working, training, learning, and getting paid for that time. The financial model is hugely important to us as a college. We really want our students to not be crushed under a mound of crippling debt. And so the way we have modeled the program is as long as you can make the first year's tuition, which is $15,000, that's a 1 5 and 3 zeros. If you can get past that year's tuition, what you make in the program itself, so from the summers that you're working full time through the halftime you're working throughout the school year, that will pay for all of your tuition for years 2, 3, and 4. So, so that's a really huge benefit of the program. That's one of the other reasons that our founder really loved the trades is that you get paid to train. It's hugely important. So then you hit, the end of year 4, and that would be graduation. You now have your Bachelor of Arts in Catholic Studies. And so what happens? So we're not done with you yet as a student. So we are your group sponsor as the college. So in the trades, when you want to work an apprenticeship to be on your way towards journeyman status, you need to have a sponsor. And so that typically is a union for many of the trades workers. But in our instance, as a higher education institution, we are the students' group sponsor, which means we help them find their apprenticeship. We are along with them, for the ride until they make their journeyman status. And so we want them to go back home to their home state. I put in preferred location only because there does once in a while crop up that students ask, like, do I have to go back to my home area? And as much as I try to talk them into yes, sometimes they just don't want to and they want to go somewhere else. And so it's important that everyone understands it's not a necessity. It's just that we would prefer if students go where they have roots. We want them to go back home by mom and dad. We want them to go by siblings, uh, those that love them and care about them and want to help them get a good start on their young life. Um, and so then the ongoing full time apprenticeship is ongoing here until they hit journeyman status. That could be 2 or 3 years past graduation. It just depends on the trade and on the state, and honestly, how good they are in their trade. Right? There's an opportunity usually to test for journeyman sooner than the required hours time frames. So it really depends on a lot of things. So it's difficult to nail that down, but we think roughly within 2 to 3 years, our students make journeyman. So just a quick recap: what do you have at graduation? You have a Bachelor of Arts in Catholic Studies. You have a full time apprenticeship heading toward journeyman status in your trade. And yes, this is a full time job. And what do you not have? You don't have massive debt because you've been working your way through the program the entire time, minus year 1. And so you've been paying your tuition the whole time. Uh, and that takes a significant amount of the cost burden off the student. Another piece I like to point out, and this is important, very important to us because we're a very skeleton crew here. There's not a lot of us on the staff, um, and something like Newman Guide recognition takes a lot of effort and time. And so when there's one of you or two of you that are working on it at any given time, it takes a long time to get the things in place in order to show that you truly are a Catholic institution. And I'm proud to say that we have Newman Guide recommended status already. I mean, this is our very first year of operation. We have 30 students currently, and we're forging ahead with choosing our second class for next fall. But getting Newman Guide status was really important to us. It's one of those things where there are many, it seems like there's many institutions that can be Catholic in name only, which is a frustration felt by many. And it's not something that we ever want there to be any confusion about. And so it was important to us to work with the Cardinal Newman Society, so they understood who we were as people behind this effort, and then who we are as a college and what we're putting forth. So that was very important to us, and we're excited to have that. And then I can, I can leave this slide up here, and this is an opportunity for how you can get a hold of us, how you can engage with us. I definitely recommend checking out our website. It has a lot of really good information on there. That email is my email here. So I am the admissions and enrollment department. So please reach out if you have any questions. I'm pretty good on email, so probably it's the thing I'm the best at here. I don't answer my phone quite as much as I should, but so email is probably the better way. And then, typically my two requests would be, come pay us a visit, right? Come to Steubenville and check it out. It's really not quite the same until you've been here and seen what we're doing here in person. So we do tours Mondays and Friday afternoons, and you can sign up on our website for the date of your choice. And we'd love to host you here in Steubenville. And if you have students who might be interested in this, by all means, apply. So we can. So we use a rolling admissions structure now, which basically means like we're always accepting the applications until we aren't. Right? It's sort of that we take applications until we fill up, and then we stop accepting. So I would say within the next month we'll have decided on our next class. So if you have students that might be interested, and encourage them to act here in the next week or two to get the ball rolling, and that will still leave some time for some of the things that take a little longer to get accomplished. There are some essays involved. There's some letters of recommendation involved that can take a little more time. So I definitely recommend we allow time for that. So that brings me to the end of my presentation.
Got it. Well, yeah, let's go ahead and open it up for some questions and answers. And I think one of the, I really encourage you all to take a look at their website. There's just it's a beautiful site, a lot of beautiful imagery of glimpses of what they do, every day they're at the college. And another area of the site that it's really impressive are just some of the testimonials, that they have on the site, from Scott Hahn, Matt Frad, His Eminence, Cardinal Burke. Like there's just a lot of great support for this movement and for trades. And that kind of goes into the first question. What makes Michael, what makes College of St. Joseph the Worker different than other colleges and maybe even other trade schools?
Yeah, I think the model is, just the overall model is really what makes it so different. Our founder, he really, the idea for this college came when he was talking to another colleague of his who was in higher education at the time. He was in an admissions role. He was sort of lamenting a little bit of his job, and they're having a little bit of a complainer coffee, right? Like getting together and complain about work. And his friend was saying, I'm feeling a little guilty. I'm not sure I'm telling the whole truth to everybody that wants to come to this college that I'm at. I'm telling them, they're going to get a great education. They're going to get their dream job. They're not going to have a pile of debt. It's like, I'm not sure that any of those three are true anymore. And he's like, I'm not sure that the education's all that great. They probably will end up back at home for a while, working at the coffee shop because they can't find, a job in the exact field that they wanted. And you are going to have tens of thousands of dollars of debt when you get out because it's expensive, and that's just how it is. And so they were really having a crisis there, and they could have just left it at that, but they, the kind of folks that they are, they're like, well, what if you're going to complain about it? Like, what would you do different? Like how would you do that differently? And so they started really thinking about the pros and cons to higher education, and they came to the conclusions that education is important, and in and of itself should be kept. You don't want to give up on education. Um, Working with your hands is good, solid work, right? I mean, the Greco-Roman world despised work and yet into that same Greco-Roman world, you know, Jesus Christ comes down and spends most of the years of his life at a carpenter's bench, uh, much to their chagrin. So dignifying work in the process, and so there's a lot of good in that as well. And so they wanted to keep, they want to keep these things and combine them and bring them together. And then the financial aspect, right? Like we're not meant to be crushed under mounds of debt just to get an education. There has to be a better way. And and so the financial model itself of pay as getting paid as you go because you're working through the program, um, is another ideal to bring to bear. And so it really kind of combines almost all of what we at least hope are the best elements, of the other options out there, and brings it under one roof. So it's not to say that it's not a complex and challenging program, but we think that the end result is such an amazing amount of education and training that how can you go wrong? To us, it seems like this is a no-brainer. We need this.
Yeah, no, it's an incredible model. Because I know, finances are definitely something that, families look at. Another a question on that side though, but for even for those that may struggle with that initial year, is there any type of financial aid available to pay for that first year?
Yeah. So two things. Generally, we'll share a few different scholarships that we're aware of that students can apply for. We have a specific one that is for trade. That's for trade colleges, trade schools that we like to work with. We know them pretty well, and they're good about, at least in this year one and in future years. I think they'll be very good about giving our students aid in that regard. So I would definitely say that. And then I always just recommend to people be the squeaky wheel. Instead of the squeaky wheel getting the grease, the squeaky wheel gets money, right? A lot of places in your local area, a lot of entities, business and otherwise, business and even local government institutions in your area. They want to hear from live students. They want to hear from young people who have goals and dreams and hopes, and they want to know what you're doing. So by all means, pick up the phone, go stop by, places, and ask them what's available. Right? Go to your local chamber of commerce, ask about a local business group. Are there business leaders that get together? I'd like to talk to them because I want to do this, specific college program, and I could use some financial help. And I think it's pretty rare if you really put the effort in and pound the pavement that you're going to walk away empty-handed. You're probably more likely to walk away empty-handed filling out, 30 online forms that don't necessarily show who you are versus, five or less visits to your local library or chamber of commerce or local parishes, in your area. Like I just believe that there's a lot of generous people out there, but they want to see somebody who's passionate about something, and then they want to help you.
I think even the Newman Guide, the Cardinal Newman Society has a scholarship available
Yep,
eventually. So I don't
they
think the
do.
deadline
Yeah,
is
I
passed.
think they're working on it. Yeah, and there's also the St. Robert Bellarmine Fund is
Hmm.
another big one.
Yeah,
Um, and there's definitely ones out there. It's just you got to do a little looking, and then when folks get accepted, we tend to send them a bunch of stuff to consider.
awesome. Is there any other type of expenses students should, plan on incurring other than tuition while at the school?
Yeah, so tuition is a big part of it, and then after that, you would have housing probably being the next biggest cost. So the way we work housing is our students live in actual houses and small apartment buildings, and um, that's not really a moneymaker. It's not meant to be a moneymaker for us. We just basically want to break even on that. So we just want them to pay the utilities each month. They pay the homeowner's insurance and a small maintenance fee, just so that we have money set aside for if things go wrong in the house, we have money to fix it. So that I think we're estimating right now at about $200 a month per student. Um, could be a little bit less, could be a little bit more, depending. But it's essentially rent-free housing. So it's really just help us keep up with the costs of running it. And then your food costs. We don't have a board program, so our students right now this year, they're going to the grocery store and they're cooking and making meals, and some really good meals, mind you. I oversee one of the houses, and they just had my family and I out for Sunday dinner yesterday, and they made the most amount of pizza I've ever seen in my life, and it was all handmade, and they had quite the operation going in the kitchen, and they even gave my son their secret recipe for the pizza crust, so it was a great time. So, so those are some of the costs, and then of course there's always some books that you have to buy and whatnot. But I'd say that's most of it.
There was one maybe further question on that. They were saying that they're a military family and their daughter's truly having doesn't have an idea of where home is. Would it be possible for her to receive help in finding a good location once she graduates? They do not know where they're going to retire themselves.
Hmm. Yeah, that's an interesting question. So I would say, hmm. I mean, the short answer would be yes. I'm sure that we could help find a good community, for that. Um, Keeping in mind that student might might consider Steubenville home for a while, right? If there's not technically home per se, um, so that will at least start to give them a feel for what they maybe like and don't like, as far as what they like, want in a community. And then I would think just ongoing communication, at that point could help. The summers might be a real opportunity to test the waters in some parts of the country, because we work on the quarter system, and so our fourth quarter is over a portion of summer, so it's like mid June to mid August timeframe, and then they have about a month off after that before they have to come back in mid September. But those first couple summers might be an opportunity to try out a few different areas, because we could probably get you an apprenticeship in different parts of the country if you wanted to just sample, what some areas, or maybe you have some family in this part of the country, so you go spend a summer there. Maybe some friends in a different part of the country. In the next summer, you go spend some time there. So it's all just sort of a wheedling down of what are you really looking for in your home community. Uh, I'm sure we could work with that student to help them figure it out. At the end of the day, it's going to be a personal call, but um, I'm sure we'd be as helpful as we could possibly be in that regard.
So what are you looking for in an applicant, in a student? And how many students do you expect to be in the second class?
Yeah. So what we're looking for in an applicant. Maybe I'm going to reverse that, and I'm going to answer the easy one first. So, how many students we accept to be in the next class? I think we're thinking somewhere 40 to 50 new students in the next class. So we have 30 right now. We'd like to grow, um, but at the same time, as a new institution, we're definitely going to be careful about what students we accept and how quickly we grow to make sure that we're really nailing this before scaling up too much. And even with that said, the number of students we bring in will always be fairly intimate. I think we're not going to be a huge institution ever. Our focus is always going to be a little bit smaller in that nature, and that's on purpose. Um, and so then going back to the first part of the question, what are we looking for in an applicant? So generally, when you submit your information, we're looking at five distinct categories. So where is the student at in their personal spiritual formation? Have they made their faith their own? That's what we're really looking for, is have they built a strong foundation and they're carrying forward with that. Can't just be something mom and dad are telling you to do anymore. That's going to be pretty rough to come to our place, where we require maybe a bit more maturity than some places. Number two, we'll look at your academics. So um, our bachelor's degree program is no fluff. It's a pretty rigorous program. So you need to be a champ in the classroom, and you got to want that as well. Um, then number three, what do your goals look like? So where do you want to go with the education and training you're going to get? And do we feel that the college is, what we offer is going to help you reach those goals? Number four, what's their view of community service? So, have they done volunteer work? Do they understand the importance of giving back? And then number five, what we call your competency, which is really, let's take a look at your resume. What kind of jobs have you had? Um, it's preferable if you can at least show some exposure to the trades, but we also realize that's not easy for everybody, especially if you don't know someone in the trades. It can be challenging. So in that case, we're looking for, do you know what it is to put in an 8-hour physical work day? Where it's, sometimes it can just, you're mowing lawns and weed whipping and, all that stuff. And that's your side job that you do. It's like, do you at least know what it is to work a hard physical job, packing trucks for 8 hours, whatever it might be. It's just the trades are a physical environment, requires a certain level of physicality. So it's nice to see that you at least have some exposure in that regard.
As an accepted student for the fall, how can I best prepare for the fall semester
Mm,
or quarter?
yeah, amazing. Um, well, one of the easy answers is work hard and make a good amount of money for yourself, so you can feel very comfortable about where you are financially. I think that's important for any student. I think students stress out a lot about money, and so it's always a good idea to have as much as as much as you can saved up. Um, I think depending on where you are, so as an accepted student, that can mean you're still in high school and your job is to work as hard as you can to finish out. Don't let mom and dad down and just quit on the rest of the year because you've been accepted already, right? You have to be just as good of a student as you ever can be. Um, so don't do that. If you're maybe at home and completing a gap year or something like that, keep your mind stimulated, right? Like find those challenging books, to pick up. Meet with those friends who challenge you in that way, right? Who have that good conversation with you. Talk to mom and dad, and sit down with them and have some of those topic nights where you're dealing with some of the cultural issues of the day, and really just stimulate your mind. Just keep yourself active and going in all those ways. Um, and it's not too late if you want to take a look at shadowing some trades folks in your area to continue to get a better grasp of what the different trades are in residential construction and what those are about. That might make things even easier then for you to choose which one. You may be one of those who comes in and is like, no, it's this, and I know it because I've experienced it. So I'd say those are a few different things, and then continue to be active in your parish life. Um, a steady prayer life, making sure you're really strong in your prayer life. Get to the sacraments as often as you can. The younger you can be to make daily mass a part of your life, the better. It only will get harder the older you get, that if you haven't made that a habit. So says an older dad from experience. So definitely, get the habits in place now, so that when you get here, you feel that's something you can rest on and feel completely comfortable with.
Um, we have someone asking about entrance exams. Do you guys accept CLT, SAT, etc.?
Yeah. So one standardized test is part of the application process, but we do accept all three of the major standardized tests, so CLT, ACT, or SAT.
This is coming from a parent of an accepted student for the fall. Can you guarantee they will come back with all 10 fingers? More of a safety concern, I guess.
The students spent a fair amount of time in quarter one on safety. So I feel pretty good in that regard. Mike Sullivan, he's our president. He's very much concerned about safety all the time, and even above skill. I think he's very much about, yeah, you're not gonna do dumb things on the job site under my watch, because that's a huge concern and pet peeve of his as well. Plus, we have good safety protocols in the shop, and some of the best equipment that you can get. Table saws are always the scariest thing in the shop, and we've got the best ones that are in the business. We've got the saw stops in effect, and if you come and give us a visit, I'll show you what the exploded blade looks like uh, when the safety protocols hit in. It's pretty neat, but you can also YouTube the saw stop hot dog test, and that'll show you what kind of equipment we're working with. It's pretty impressive stuff. It's very very safe.
It's great. I was actually thinking like I always use the table saw from the side. I don't know if that's safe or not, but
Yes. Yeah, stay out of the way of the potential spear. Yeah.
What does the community look like on campus?
Yeah, interesting. So I say interesting because campus is such a different feel for us. Um, there's a lot of colleges and universities that have like a captive campus where you're kind of held apart, right? And so sometimes you may or may not ever see your town that you're in, and that's the complete opposite of what our campus is. Our campus is downtown Steubenville. So our major buildings are all within a 2-minute walk of each other, and yet you're in the downtown of Steubenville, right around the corner from small businesses. Down at least one side of the street, the other side is still a little bare, but we're working on it. And then the area where the students live, it's a growing neighborhood. Nice young families are starting to move in there, but it's also just a regular old neighborhood. There's still people that have lived there for a number of years, and we encourage our students to get out and know their neighbors. Go visiting, see who lives around you, introduce yourself. Just like the rest of us might, take a plate of cookies and go introduce yourself to that neighbor that you don't know, um, and introduce yourself. So I think campus life is very much about being part of the Steubenville community, and we actually say that when we talk about students. When we talk about student life, we say student life is Steubenville life, and that's because we don't manufacture a ton of student life here. We try to think of a few worthwhile things each month that we think our students might gain something from or might enjoy, but then we also try to point them to things that are already happening within the community, because Steubenville, for as small as it is, has a surprising amount of things going on a weekly basis that will probably be interesting to students and just your average citizen alike.
I believe this is the last question, unless anybody else has any other questions. But is there any upcoming deadlines or any other, key dates that we should be conscientious of heading into fall eventually here?
Yeah, I mean, if you're thinking of fall 25 admission, I'd say within the next probably 2 to 3 weeks, you're going to want to get most of your stuff in. Um, you can you can probably get most of it done in a week. Um, but then it's nice to have a little bit of time to allow for your letters of rec to flow in. Sometimes the essays take a little longer than you might think. They're not long. It's just you know how it is. If you want to write a really good essay, in a nice compact, succinct essay, it takes a little bit longer than writing a longer one. So definitely give yourself a little time and take your time. It's best to get in a solid application than a rushed one. Um, but yeah, I would say sometime in the next 2 or 3 weeks, make sure you're getting something into us so that we can see that you're interested, and then uh, you know t- the secret always is, right, as long as we've received something from you and there's still missing things, you usually get that grace period, right, because that's just how things work. So you always want to give somebody a chance to sort of fill in the holes. So even if you're missing something, we'll ping you when we feel like it's necessary to say, hey, if you really wanted to get this completed, you should hurry, and now's the time to hurry. So
Awesome. I think that's all. We're getting close to time here. So if there's any further questions, ask them now. But with that, I think we're gonna wrap up. And I hope you've really felt that this webinar was helpful learning more about our college partner, College of St. Joseph the Worker. They're really a diamond in the rough, an interesting, I think field of diving in with the trades, but also having that ability to gain that college degree. But if you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to Michael. And I know he'll be very happy to have further conversation with you. Mike, you said you preferred email, so you can go down that pathway. But again, visit the website. There's so many resources there. There's some great video and films there to kind of get some of just the live action of what's happening there. Yeah, we're just thank you for joining us today. We're going to be praying for all of you guys as you carry on this discernment process, of deciding, where God is leading you on your college journey, on your college adventure. So with that, we'll let you guys be. God bless you, everyone, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Take care.